My dream job turned into a nightmare at 24. Accused of laziness and ignored by coworkers, I was fired without warning. "I won't believe your lies," my supervisor yelled as I cried. Now, months later, I'm left with burnout and self-doubt. What happened to my future? I created this account solely to discuss this issue. It occurred from September to December, but I am still affected by it and have been contemplating posting this since January. This will be a lengthy post, so here it is. Summary. My coworkers became hostile, ignored me, and lied about me. My supervisor unjustly accused me of inappropriate behavior and yelled at me until I cried. I was persistently belittled, given contradictory instructions, and ultimately fired without warning. I lost several months of training and developed serious stress-related problems. 3 months later, I am still dealing with the emotional impact. Background. In my country, there is a system of education that combines full-time work with lower pay in exchange for training and schooling. After 2 or 3 years, you receive a certificate confirming that you have successfully learned the job. Fresh out of school, I wanted to pursue a career in law. I applied for a trainee position at the first firm I found, received an interview immediately, and was hired on the spot to begin in September. During the first 2 weeks, I thoroughly enjoyed the job. My coworkers seemed friendly, I relished learning, and I felt truly happy and motivated. Then everything changed. I am unsure exactly when or why. My coworkers became curt with me, began to ignore me, and expressed frustration when I was not fast enough, even though I was only 3 weeks into training. I was assigned trivial tasks, such as copying and scanning documents for hours. When I completed my tasks and inquired about receiving new ones, which was expected of me, people visibly showed annoyance as if I was a burden. My motivation started to diminish. Additionally, my coworkers provided an interesting dynamic. 2 or 3 were kind and supportive from beginning to end, the rest not so much. I shared an office space with 4 women who spent hours discussing their children, grandchildren, dogs, Halloween decorations, weddings, and so on. They disregarded me when I attempted to join conversations, spoke negatively about me while I was present, and consistently provided conflicting instructions. For example, if you have questions, ask. Why would you ask that? Just look it up in a book. Why are you reading that book again? Just ask if you have a question. One day, a coworker was reading a message aloud about contributing money for the trainees, which included me. She paused, glanced at me, then deliberately stopped reading. Instead, she whispered to her table neighbor and began to complain about how she did not have money for frivolous things like that and how they must think she is foolish for a solid 15 minutes. On another occasion, I was suddenly called into the office and accused of being on my phone constantly. I had used it perhaps 3 times in 3 weeks, only while waiting for a 90-page print job. Being lazy and unmotivated. Being disrespectful. Not being grateful enough for the opportunity. Not accepting criticism well. Meanwhile, my coworkers used their phones for at least an hour each day. When I made mistakes, my response was consistently the same. "Oh, I'm sorry, I must have missed that. I will correct it and make a note for future reference." Yet I was still labeled the problem. One day, I had to send an email but forgot the attachment and used the incorrect signature. When I started, I was advised never to change the signature since my supervisor was always responsible. Therefore, I adhered to that guideline. I recognized my mistake and promptly began drafting a follow-up email to apologize for my error. Before sending it, I asked 2 coworkers for feedback. Coworker 1, "I wouldn't write it that way, but I don't know how to change it. I guess it's fine." Me, "Are you sure I can modify it?" Coworker 1, "Yeah, it's fine, send it." Me, Coworker 2, "Would you also review it?" Coworker 2, "If she says it's fine, it's fine." That afternoon, my supervisor reprimanded me severely. She accused me of ignoring my coworkers' instructions and claimed they had told me not to send it and I had defied their orders. Then she yelled at me until I cried. When I attempted to explain what really happened, she replied, "I do not care about your lies, I will not believe them." From that moment forward, I documented everything that was said to me. I recorded every incident as proof for my superiors, just in case things escalated. However, the situation continued to worsen. I was no longer taught anything new. I was relegated to performing trivial tasks. Most coworkers outright refused to acknowledge my presence, while others harassed me, mistreated me in daily interactions, labeled me a bad person, and constantly made me feel like a mistake. I spent my breaks alone instead of in the lunchroom, and cried nearly every day when my boyfriend picked me up because there was always something new for someone to berate me about. Then my supervisor accused me of making a derogatory remark about my colleagues. When I inquired about what I supposedly said, she declined to provide any details. So the next morning, I went to the office and addressed everyone. I was informed that I said something that upset you. I am unaware of what it was, but I want you to know that I did not mean it, and I am genuinely sorry. Surprisingly, afterward, they told me it was all right and began to treat me more kindly. But this goodwill lasted only for a single day. In November, I learned there would be a quarterly review with my supervisors to discuss my progress. During the meeting, I actively requested a contract that would allow me to continue training there until I could transfer, so I would not lose any training time. Instead of agreeing, my supervisors appeared shocked and asked, "Why would you want to leave?" which ignited a heated discussion between my supervisor and me. For instance, my supervisor accused me of refusing to speak to her. When I defended myself and stated that I had indeed spoken, she corrected me and in doing so inadvertently validated my point. Their final decision was, "We will try again for 2 weeks and reconvene." So I gave it my all. I worked as diligently as possible. I also invested additional effort into a mandatory Christmas project I had been working on for months, writing personalized poems for each coworker. Then the day of the next meeting arrived. When I entered that morning, they fired me immediately. Please leave the office and the building as soon as possible. I was also prohibited from attending the Christmas party. Since my training required me to quickly find another firm, I applied at other places immediately. On the same day I was fired, within 2 hours. 2 law firms had no openings in December but instructed me to reach out in January. In January, one of them, who had previously stated they were actively searching for trainees, suddenly declined, claiming they had no available positions. Months later, I spoke to one of the kind coworkers. She informed me someone had it out for you. When I mentioned the rejections, she suggested that they were not entirely genuine. The consequences. Not only did I lose my training and my job, but I also lost 4 months of progress. Developed a mild burnout according to my doctor, with extremely high cortisol levels due to stress. Suffered severe sleep issues, nightmares, and hours spent overthinking my mistakes. Experienced an overwhelming fear of making mistakes, which caused me to hesitate in everything I do. I began therapy to address these issues. 3 months later, I am still struggling. The conclusion. This position was meant to be my launching pad. Instead, it shattered my confidence, ended my training, and caused me to question my self-worth. I have documented every interaction, and honestly, I simply want my story to be heard. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, as discussing this genuinely helps me cope. Story 2. I fell for a woman who confessed, "I love me because I'm talking about cheating on you," after revealing her history as a prostitute. Just 2 months in, she broke up and left emotional scars that haunt me. How could I have missed all the warning signs? Background. I met her when I was just beginning a new job, and she was being transferred out due to a demotion. Fortunately, we do not see each other at work. We had some time to get to know one another, and before her official transfer, I asked for her phone number and we began talking. We engaged in small talk for a few weeks before I asked her out, to which she agreed. I took her to a local cafe and we really connected. We kissed goodbye for the night, and I ended up going to her place over the weekend where we were intimate, although we did not actually have sexual intercourse. I inquired if she considered us boyfriend and girlfriend, and she confirmed. This indicated the start of our relationship. A week later, she revealed that she has herpes, but after conducting some research, I decided that I did not want to potentially lose someone special because of that. For the most part, things were acceptable. There were a few aspects that I recognized as red flags, but I thought they could be managed. She wanted to discuss having children and marriage very early in our relationship, around the second or third week of our dating. She also admitted to having cheated in previous relationships, but justified it by claiming that the men were also unfaithful to her. About a month into our relationship, I lent her a substantial amount of money to cover a bill under $1,000, which I recognize now was a mistake. Where it went wrong. We had been dating for 2.5 months when on New Year's Eve we went to a bar near her residence. Before entering, she expressed concern that she might encounter an ex-boyfriend. I suggested that we try a different venue, but we ultimately decided to go to that bar. After we entered, she looked around and covered her face before rushing toward the exit. I told her we should leave, but she wanted to stay, so I complied. For the most part, things seemed fine. After about half an hour, we walked upstairs, and she instructed me to step a few feet away because she wanted to talk to a man she claimed was her ex-boyfriend. Foolishly, I agreed and stood back, watching them converse. Although I could not hear their conversation, she did not appear happy. When she finished, I took her hand and led her outside. I was quite upset that she did not want me to hear their discussion and that her priority should have been me. She worried that he might do something to us while we were there. We spent the remainder of the night in my car, and aside from the bar incident, it was a good time overall. I did not bring up the issue with her ex again, and a few weeks passed with everything seeming all right. She did seem emotionally distant during one particular week, but I attributed it to her job. We continued to go on dates and we remained intimate. I inquired about her emotional distance and she assured me that everything was still fine between us. However, during one of our dates, she dropped a bombshell. She confessed to having been a prostitute for several men. I attempted to rationalize it and not blame her for her past, but understandably, most people would find that difficult to accept. Nonetheless, I told her that I accepted her for who she was and could not hold her past against her. A week later, she visited my place, and to summarize our conversation, she revealed the extent of her sexual history. I had asked her about this because I felt betrayed that she had claimed to disclose all her baggage yet had never mentioned her prostitution. Honestly, just contemplating what she told me makes me feel nauseous. Among many other things, she mentioned that she was at a bar and was gang raped while unconscious in the restroom. She expressed no emotion while recounting this. Instead, she smiled and remarked, "It honestly felt nice," while chuckling. I embraced her and cried as she shared this with me because it appeared to me that she was a victim, yet she did not seem troubled by discussing it. She showed no shame or guilt either. About a week later, what she did next infuriated me, and to this day I am still extremely angry. She confided in me that she was having intrusive thoughts about having sexual relations with the ex she encountered at the bar. Initially, she claimed that the thought only lasted a split second and that she would redirect it. However, as I probed further, she eventually admitted that, when the thoughts lasted longer for several minutes too. At times, she intentionally entertained those thoughts at work because she was aroused, and 3, she confessed that she had considered using her car keys to drive over to see him. She confirmed this was still happening while we were dating and would call or text when she experienced these thoughts. Additionally, she stated, "I love myself because I am talking about cheating on you and you are not getting angry." She asked if I could trust her and essentially boasted that I would be left wondering what she was doing during the nights and weekends. In hindsight, I should have ended the relationship right then and there, but my lack of experience prevented me from recognizing my own worth. Side note, I am uncertain if this man was even an ex-boyfriend. For all I know, he could have been a random guy, and she was emotionally manipulating me about this. When she ended our relationship, I confronted her, suggesting that she wanted me to marry her out of jealousy. Break up. After 2 to 3 days of her sharing these intrusive thoughts, she wanted to meet up with me after work. I went there prepared to confront her angrily and honestly to break up with her. When we met, she ended up breaking up with me. That was bad enough, but she felt compelled to say that of the times she had said, "I love you," she did not truly mean it. She expressed a desire to stay in touch and remain friends, which I agreed to, as I thought there might be a way to reconcile in the future. Back and forth. We continued talking after the breakup, as I needed to retrieve my belongings from her. One day, she invited me to her place to spend the night while I collected my things. I accepted the invitation, and although nothing sexual occurred, she even invited me to sleep in the same bed with her. When I left in the morning, I kissed her goodbye thinking things might be improving and that she wanted to try again. However, when I got home, she texted me, expressing concern that I might have misunderstood her intentions and that she still did not want to be in a relationship with me. At that point, I insisted that she repay the money I had lent her. Surprisingly, she sent the money quickly, and I thought that would be the end of it. I wished her well in life and began to move on. A week or two later, she casually messaged me, claiming that she should not have repaid me so quickly. She did not ask how I was doing, just went straight to discussing the money. I ignored her messages and calls all day until I responded in the evening, telling her it was bold for her to ask about the money while showing no interest in my well-being. At that point, I was very reluctant to return the money to her. After a few days of communication, she told me she was going to change, go to therapy, focus on finding a better job, and read a book on relationships, etc. She showed me a journal entry and a list of job applications she had submitted. She also acknowledged that she made mistakes in our relationship and wanted to try again. She insisted she was not reaching out solely for the money and truly wished to work things out. I raised the issue of her intrusive thoughts about the ex, emphasizing that it was completely unacceptable and that she needed to address it. After a few days of careful consideration, I decided to lend her the money again, but we established a repayment plan. Eventually, I expressed my desire to see her again, and we arranged to have lunch in a week. Then, a few days before our lunch date, she called me and stated that she was uncertain about trying again, admitting she did not want to raise my hopes. She then confessed that she had lied about wanting to try again and had only contacted me for the money. At that moment, I was furious. I confronted her about all the hurtful things she had said and done, telling her, among other things, that I would not allow a prostitute to be the mother of my children, and I demanded she repay me by the end of the week. Thankfully, she again quickly reimbursed me. She attempted to guilt-trip me by saying that I did not care if her car was repossessed or if she became homeless. She lives with her parents and does not pay rent. We have been going back and forth a bit over the past week, each of us taking some space from one another, yet she has the audacity to be upset and claim that she is the one who has been hurt. So now I intend to move on from her for good, but I would be dishonest if I said I do not miss her. I suppose one silver lining is that at least I did not contract herpes, but the emotional wounds will take time to heal. My therapist suspects that she may have borderline personality disorder, narcissism, and schizophrenia, and since she opposes seeking help, that has likely been festering untreated throughout her life, but it is no longer my problem to solve. TLDR. I began a relationship with a woman who revealed a deeply troubling past filled with numerous red flags, manipulated and lied to me, openly discussed cheating on me, and now I realize that I need to sever ties for good and concentrate on my own healing. Story 3. After 5 years together, my fiancé flipped the script on a simple family visit, calling me Ms. Tough Girl and blaming me for his disrupted plans. "You guys didn't stay out of my way," he said, "but did I really cause the chaos? Now I'm left questioning everything. I need assistance. I 25 female and my fiancé, 27 male, have been together for 5 years. We just had an argument this morning and I feel as though he gaslit me and was unkind to me. I am confused because he is usually very in touch with his emotions and he has never resorted to name-calling or gaslighting me during disagreements before. I do not know if calling me a tough girl is considered name-calling. It is quite mild but feels so unusual for him to even say that. Did I actually initiate the argument and am I missing something? Was I pushing too hard and arguing over minor issues? I am trying to understand what I did to upset him, so please be candid. I need brutal honesty. Context: Sunday is his only day off. He worked 2 shifts on Saturday and wanted to accomplish a lot that day. My 9-year-old niece wanted to visit on Sunday and my parents brought her over after I checked with my fiancé, and he said yes, only mentioning that he could not spend time with us. We were in the living room while he was in the bedroom next door. The only other room we could have used does not have chairs. He slept on the couch Saturday night because my best friend stayed over, and we took the bedroom. I obviously consulted him beforehand and he agreed. I let my niece say hello to him. It was supposed to be quick, and he left the bedroom and began to spend time with us of his own accord. Text messages. Him: I am actually upset that Sunday got thrown off schedule. My apologies for not being more assertive, but I go into autopilot mode, must serve other people. I had a lot I wanted and needed to accomplish and it all fell by the wayside. I am a good host, but I really should not have allowed my niece to play with the Legos I am trying to sell, pull them apart, step on them, and get distracted all day. I stayed and talked and received advice on my eBay sales just fine and spent 2 hours building a fence blind. I am too easy to push my own needs aside. Me: I understand. I informed them that you would be busy, and I told you that we would try to stay out of your way. My niece wanted to say hello, but I did not realize you would stop what you were doing and spend time with us. Hims: you all were literally on the other side of the door. It is not in my nature to go, hi, then shut the door again. Me: we had guests and they wanted to see the dogs, so we couldn't stay upstairs. Him: also you all did not stay out of my way. You were right next to where I was, so it is partly my fault, but that proximity triggered my don't be rude alarm. Me: we could not have really been anywhere else, which is why I suggested going around the block, as I thought you could return to your tasks, yet you chose to spend time with us. I thought you had changed your mind, like that time we were having burgers at my parents' house and you were supposed to leave but decided to stay much longer. You told me not to speak for you then, so I refrained from suggesting we return to selling Legos, as previous experiences have shown me how important it is for you to make your own decisions without my input. Him: please get off my back. Me: I am just explaining my reasoning, as it sounds like you are attributing blame to me for how you spent time with us. Him: I think there are definitely factors in this situation that are your responsibility. If you read my text, I actually acknowledge that it is my fault. However, there are certainly factors that are your responsibility. Next time you should go over there instead of having their entire household come here. I have things to do and I am easily distracted and struggle with saying no. Those unconscious responses will repeatedly occur unless I am aware of them. I believe fault is a strong term as well. Also, I am not assigning fault. Behaviors and actions lead to the outcomes. I worked a great deal on Saturday. That was my choice. I had to sleep on the couch and received very little restful sleep after a long day. That was your choice. Me: they requested to come over because my niece wanted to see the dogs. I would like to be able to say yes to that request without you becoming upset. Him, how about a little consideration? That is all I am asking for. Take the dogs outside. If my niece wants to see the dogs, do not let her poke her head in to see what I am doing and ask to take apart the sets I am trying to sell. I thought she wanted to see the dogs. The dogs can be outside in the backyard. Me, yes, but I would say almost 50% of Saturdays, you choose to sleep on the couch. Him, why did we watch iCarly? That is not true. Me, I did take the dogs outside, but you did not go back to what you were doing. Him, definitely not 50% because I was called out already. So next time, leave me alone. I am now aware that I cannot make myself be left alone without realizing it. Me, she asked if she could say hello to you. Next time I will tell her no. Him, great, that is what I requested when you asked if they could come over. I am busy and cannot hang out. In other words, leave me alone. I did not realize that is what I was asking for, but I know now. Me, my fault for thinking a quick hello wasn't a big deal. Him, you use words like bad and fault. You are not even hearing me. Me, yes, that is how you are making it feel. You are upset now, and all of this happened because I said she could say hello to you. It seems like it turned out to be negative for me. Him, I am not placing anything on you. I am simply replaying Sunday and vocalizing how I feel about the sequence of events. That is all. I am expressing things I appreciated and things I did not like and I did not enjoy most of it. That does not make it bad or good. You asked me how I was doing and I said I did not know. I am working through it. I will stop sending information your way if it is a problem. But I literally have zero patience to argue with you over trivial matters and being judged and held responsible for unconscious decisions. Those decisions are unconscious. Me, but you are upset with me for your unconscious decisions. Him, I am simply replaying things and saying, this is good, this is not good, but not labeling them as good or bad. I am angry that I was in a self-sabotaging environment without realizing how easily I sabotage myself. I am now realizing it and I am frustrated because I placed my own needs aside again. I am not assigning any blame. Me, you did earlier, but then you retracted it. Regardless, you do seem to be blaming me when you said, you were literally on the other side of the door and you all did not stay out of my way at the start of this conversation. I did not assume you were blaming me until you said those things. Him, this is so pointless. I never said fault first. I said my bad. Oh boy, I did not realize I had to argue semantics. You are missing the main point. It is not about you. You asked me how I feel and I am sharing my feelings. It is about me. I can stop texting if you prefer. I am explaining why I am upset and you are making it about you. It is not about you. I believe you knew what you were doing and clearly understood how I would respond, better than I did, and now I am vocalizing thoughts you apparently already knew. Now you are fighting me over who said what first technically and who assumed what and what was implied by what text. Just leave me alone. I am still extremely tired. Do not ask me for anything today. Leave me alone today, please. I am just trying to make it through the day and implement some changes and take care of myself. I do not have the energy to take care of you too. I do not believe I have asked for reassurance today, so I do not think I am making you take care of me and I do not think my requests are excessive. What I am asking for is for you not to engage with me today. I have tasks to complete and I cannot be here reading texts and debating points and texting argumentative content. Leave me alone if you want to argue. I am not well today. Me, this is absurd. You initiated this when you made those comments. You are twisting this around. I was simply defending myself when you were placing blame on me. Then you say I am not blaming you and it was my unconscious decisions after clearly blaming me. I did not instigate anything. Review the conversation for proof. Fine, okay, Ms. Tough Girl, cross your arms defiantly. You are making a powerful stand. I do not care if I am right. Leave me alone when I tell you to. There are huge aspects of this conversation that we are ignoring. Do not bother me if I am busy. Do not let my niece bother me if I am busy. Leave me alone. I do not want to have to attend Sunday dinners or New Year's Eve or have a standing appointment on my only day off. If I am busy, I do not want to pretend to be nice. Leave me alone. Do not speak to me today. Leave me alone. I am on the verge of losing my composure today and you keep pushing me. Stop. In summary, I do not believe I initiated the argument, but my fiancé insists that I did. He is also claiming that he was not blaming me for anything, yet he clearly did. Story 4. My husband left me when I was 6 months pregnant, claiming I drove him to suicidal thoughts. He promised change, yet after just a month apart, I discovered he was introducing our daughters to the woman he cheated on me with. Now I'm ready to file for divorce. How did I let it get this far? It has barely been a month since my soon-to-be ex-husband took his belongings and left. I have been a stay-at-home mother for the past few years, so I relied on his income. We live in California where rent is high, and since he is the only one working, we rented a house with my parents and brothers, allowing us to split the rent and bills. Our rent is $870, and we pay for the trash bill, half of the electricity bill, and half of the weekly groceries. On March 2nd, he decided to leave. He received our tax refund, paid off any debts we had, and with the remainder of the money, he rented a room somewhere. He told me he was tired of me, took his belongings, and left. He blamed me for everything, claiming I did not love or respect him. He said he felt suicidal being with me and just could not endure it any longer. He insisted it was temporary until we resolved our issues, but it was all lies. As I sat down to reflect on things, I realized how manipulative he could be. He blamed me for everything while never once addressing why I acted that way toward him. In December 2020, when my oldest daughter was just 3 weeks old, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to the love of my life, had recently given birth to our beautiful baby girl, and was experiencing a bit of postpartum depression due to such a significant change. Then I discovered messages on his phone, an Instagram account with no pictures, a random name, and direct messages full of women. Some messages were sent only an hour earlier. I tried to forget the things I saw and read, but I could not. I confronted him about it and told him to leave to gather his belongings and go. He pleaded not to be separated from his family, promising he would change. Then I found more messages less than 24 hours later. Some of those messages were with my cousins, my friends, acquaintances, and even his own cousin. Experiencing that changed my life. I fell into a deep depression, lacking the energy to do anything, allowing things to become messy, and then having sporadic bursts of energy to clean everything I had neglected all week. Then I would fall back into my depression. He would buy me gifts to atone for what he was doing, but he later used those gifts against me, making me feel ungrateful. When our daughter was 10 months old, I found more messages with an old coworker of mine. She was my friend, happy for me, and even referred to herself as the godmother of our daughter. In those messages, he expressed how badly he wanted to hurt me. He told her how much he hated being with me. They exchanged explicit material, and I considered moving back to my parents' house. Yet again, he begged me not to leave. We were about to move into our new place, and he assured me that things would change and that he genuinely wanted his family. In November 2021, we moved into our new home. I secured a job in February 2022, which helped with my depression. I thought things were improving between us, and since I always wanted 2 children, we discussed it, and I stopped taking birth control to prepare for baby number 2. I hoped this pregnancy would be different, that I would not experience the same stress I had with my firstborn. I discovered I was pregnant in September 2022, and we were overjoyed. However, in March 2023, when I was 6 months pregnant, I found another Instagram account with messages indicating he was communicating with other women. I was furious. I could not believe he had betrayed me again, especially while I was pregnant. I packed my bags ready to leave, but he stopped me. Perhaps I was foolish for not leaving. I felt weak-minded, but he understood how much I desired our family to stay together and how desperately I wanted things to work out for us, so I stayed once more. Each time I discovered messages, my love for him diminished, my respect for him faded, and resentment grew. I longed for things to work because I wanted my daughters to have their family unified. Whenever I approached him about it, he would dismiss my concerns, insisting that they were just messages and that he was not actually sleeping with those women. I could not trust him, especially after all the lies he had told. In April 2023, we were evicted from the house we were renting because he acquired a Rottweiler and the landlord did not permit dogs. I was 8 months pregnant and my parents offered for us to move back in with them. We relocated to their rented 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. Our second daughter was born in May 2023. During this period, my ex worked at a countertop company, earning $16 per hour. I encouraged him to work at the company where my father was employed and discussed it with my dad, who arranged for him to get a job. My father's boss made an exception because he was his son-in-law, hiring him in June 2023 and starting him at $23 per hour despite his lack of experience. In July 2023, we found a larger house to rent and moved in August 2023. A week later, I discovered another Instagram account where he was again communicating with women. Some messages were flirtatious and inappropriate, including exchanges with his cousin and half-sisters. I could not believe what I was reading. He promised once more that things would change, but I did not believe him. I had become numb to the pain already. I was struggling with everything alone, embarrassed to confide in anyone. He knew just what to say to persuade me to stay. I felt too weak-minded to leave, and I despised myself for it. I allowed him to hurt me repeatedly. I genuinely believed things would be different. I thought he would truly change, but they did not. I permitted him to continuously hurt me while letting him blame me for it. Whenever I confronted him about the messages, he would say it was because I was a bad wife, because I was messy, because I did not respect him. But where was my respect? Where was the respect for our daughters? I was severely depressed, lacking energy for anything. I was anxious and constantly on edge. He had anger issues, so even the smallest things would trigger a furious outburst. I could not cry because he would yell at me for it. He made me feel as if I could not feel anger over him messaging other women, insisting those were just messages and did not constitute real cheating, claiming I needed to move on, but I could not then, and still cannot. He does not understand the trauma he inflicted on me. In September 2024, I discovered another account he was using. I could not access it, but I knew it existed. At that point, I decided I would stay to ensure he would pay for my schooling and complete my adjustment of status, but he left me before I could accomplish either. He blames me for everything that went wrong in our marriage, and I am okay with being perceived as the villain. I do not owe anyone any explanations except his mother. I had told her everything. Yesterday, March 31st, he asked if he could have the girls, and I agreed. I got them ready, he picked them up, and they left. When he returned to drop them off, my oldest began to recount how they had gone to a birthday party. As soon as he heard that, he said he had to leave, rushing to the car and driving away. I asked my daughter again what she had said, and she confirmed they went to a birthday party for old coworker's name. My daughter mumbled a bit, but I clearly heard her mention the name of the person with whom I was cheated. I asked her again, and when she repeated it, I inquired if that person was a boy or a girl, to which she responded, girl. I was furious. I called him and he refused to answer. When he finally did, I asked him where he had taken the girls, and he replied that I did not need to know, stating he was driving by, and then hung up. He took my daughters around a woman he had cheated on me with. He exposed my daughters to another woman, and we had not even been separated for a full month. He had said it was temporary, that we needed space from one another. Now I understand why he required that space. I am so angry, I cannot believe I am experiencing this. I tried so hard to maintain the relationship for the sake of my daughters having their father in their lives, but now I do not want him anywhere near them or me. What is even more frustrating is that all the evidence I had of his infidelity, the messages I saved from him and his cousin and half-sisters, are gone. All the proof I gathered is completely erased from my phone, iCloud, and Google Photos. I am devastated. I did not deserve this. I was severely depressed and lacked the energy for cleaning, and instead of helping, he took photos of the disarray in the house when my mental health was at its lowest and kept them. I am now in therapy, hoping to heal all the damage he caused. He also lost his job because he chose to speak negatively about my father and my brother's work, trying to have them fired because he believed he deserved a raise, but it backfired, resulting in his layoff. We have a car that we purchased in 2021, and he told me he would not return it until I found a job and could afford to make the payments. He also claimed he would provide me with $100 weekly from that point on and only half the rent. I requested he please give me $200 until I secured a job, but it has been 2 weeks and he has not given me even $5. It is extremely stressful. With the stunt he pulled yesterday, I am beginning to seek an attorney to assist me in filing for divorce and child support. I did find a job, and I am awaiting their call to schedule orientation. I cannot wait to finally liberate myself from him. Story 5. My gut instinct screamed danger when a strange man blocked me at the gas station. Something wasn't right, I thought, as he stalked me. After a tense standoff, I left. Now I can't shake the feeling I'll see him on the news. What was his plan? I just need a place to share this because I cannot stop thinking about it. Summary: I had a strange encounter with a man at a gas station whom I am almost certain was about to do something to me. I instantly felt that something was wrong and left quickly. I am fairly certain I will hear something about him on the news. Let me begin by stating that I, 29 years old male, am not a paranoid individual. I am vigilant certainly, but not paranoid by any measure. I am always conscious of my surroundings, even when it appears that I am not paying attention. In my opinion, being aware of what is happening around you at all times is the best practice, especially during nighttime. I will return to why I mentioned all of that, but for now, here is the story. I work at 3:00 a.m. every day, which means that I leave my house no later than 2:00 a.m., as I enjoy taking my time to work on empty roads and spending the 20 minutes or so before check-in time scrolling through TikTok. This morning, I departed about 10 minutes early because I needed to get gasoline. I lit a cigarette while on my way, and as I pulled into the gas station, I chose to sit in the adjacent lot to finish my cigarette. This lot is directly connected to the gas station and is used as a drop-off area for the school behind it. However, unlike the gas station, it has no lighting. It is important to note that the side of the lot on which I parked was closest to the gas station, and the lights there are bright enough that the area where I parked is reasonably illuminated. So as I pull in and park along the curb, I have about 3 puffs left on my cigarette. I decide to use this time to check my email, and as I retrieve my phone, a car pulls up, abruptly maneuvers in front of me, and backs up until its rear bumper is inches from my front bumper, effectively attempting to block me. This immediately draws my attention because it is simply not normal behavior, and there was no reason for it. Where I live, we do not drive that way, nor do we park that way, especially when we have ample space to be as far from others as possible. It is an unspoken rule here that if you do not need to be near someone, you do not stay near them. Also, parallel parking does not exist here, so that is not a justification either. I should mention that I have a front and rear dash cam and reviewed the footage repeatedly to ensure that I was not imagining things and that I recounted this accurately. I can tell you that after watching that footage numerous times, it is clear that this man acted deliberately. I also showed the footage to my parents and uncle for their opinions, and they unanimously agreed. I did not inform them it was me until after they watched it to gauge their thoughts. This lot is vast, my lights were on, my window was down with my arm resting on it, and there was no one else around except for myself and this man. There was no reason for him to park in the lot with me nor to back his car directly in front of mine when he initially pulled up 20 feet away. He could have remained where he was, however, he went out of his way to move closer to me. The manner in which he pulled up and backed in front of me was fluid and intentional, and watching that video leaves little doubt in my mind about that. Anyway, once he parks, he turns off all his lights, keep in mind that all of my lights are still on, and begins erratically reaching around and repeatedly turning his cabin lights on and off. At this moment, my instincts are screaming at me to leave, so I discard my cigarette, reverse my car, and start to exit. As I begin backing up, he opens his door, flicks his cabin lights on and off one last time, and starts to get out. However, as I pass him, he slams the door, turns his lights back on, and begins following me. Now, this part may have been either extremely foolish or what saved me, depending on one's perspective, but instead of just leaving and going somewhere else, I maneuvered into the gas station. My fuel tank is on the passenger side, so I drove around so that I was facing the station's building. All the while, this man kept pace with me on the other side of the pumps and pulled into a space in front of the building. At this point, I was absolutely certain that something was not right. My entire being was telling me that this was wrong, that something was amiss, and that I should not exit my vehicle. Once I parked, my immediate instinct was to grab a weapon and wait. As I did so, I observed this man crane his neck to look at me. He glanced back twice before exiting his car. He opened his door while still staring at me, stood there for a moment, slowly turned and closed his door while still watching, locked the door and walked inside. This gas station, by the way, has ceiling-to-floor windows providing a clear view of the interior, with only a small section in the middle obstructed by the registers. Thus, I watched this man walk in while I got out to pump my gas, and he walked laps from one end of the store to the other. There were other customers in the store at this time, and the clerk there is a large, burly, no-nonsense type of individual. He is quite nice once you get to know him. So I am fairly confident that if this man had intentions of doing something wrong, those plans vanished the moment he walked inside, if not when he pulled into the station. On that note, I also believe his plans changed due to my reaction. I continued with my tasks instead of engaging or directly acknowledging the situation, and I think this surprised him, leaving him uncertain about how to respond. It would have been one thing for me to leave and have him follow me, which I believe he intended to do, but for me to simply go about my business from an outside observer's viewpoint and seem to ignore him was, in situations like this, disarming. In hindsight, I believe this is what saved me. I should add that I had never seen this man before that day. He was about my height, but he was easily 80 pounds lighter, if not more. Physically, I was not concerned, but I also did not know if he was armed, and despite being armed myself, I was not about to risk anything for my safety or his by confronting him. I know he planned to do something and likely thought he could reach me before I realized what was happening since I appeared to be distracted by my phone. The entire encounter lasted less than 2 minutes, with only 30 seconds elapsing from the moment he pulled in front of me to when I left the lot. That is 30 seconds from when he positioned his car in front of mine to when he opened his door to exit as well. If he had truly intended to go inside the gas station, he would have done so from the lot. However, he instead chose to follow me immediately. That is how I am certain this was a deliberate act, and that is the aspect that, in its own way, frightens me. I have experienced perhaps a handful of instances in my life where my instincts indicated something was wrong and that I needed to leave my current location. However, this instance felt different. It was almost like a primal, instinctive sensation of impending doom that put my body into overdrive the moment he pulled in front of me. There was an immediate feeling of dread that I cannot adequately describe. I have never experienced such an intense reaction to a situation before in my life, and there is no straightforward way to articulate precisely how it felt in a way that makes sense. All I can convey in this regard is that the moment he put his car in reverse, my adrenaline began pumping rapidly, and every fiber of my being screamed that I needed to escape. It was so overwhelming that I sincerely hope I never have to feel that way again. I may be overanalyzing the situation, and I might be making myself paranoid the more I dwell on it, but I cannot eliminate the feeling of how wrong the entire scenario was, nor can I disregard the sense that this man intended to do something. What exactly, I do not know and hope to never discover. However, I also cannot shake the feeling that this man will target someone else and I will eventually see him on the news. I truly hope this does not come to fruition, but the feeling persists. Although I will say that if something does occur, I have 4K video of his car and him to share with those who need it, along with a perfect screenshot of his custom vanity license plate. It is safe to say, however, that I will be more vigilant going forward because of this. I still feel in my bones that this man intended to do something, and I do not believe that feeling will dissipate anytime soon. I will not allow myself to become paranoid, but I will be paying more attention. I will also add that even if I did misinterpret the situation and nothing was going to happen, I would prefer to be mistaken than to ignore my instincts. They exist for a reason, and I would rather heed them and prevent something negative from occurring than risk looking foolish if I am wrong. I just hope to never encounter that man again and to never again feel the way I felt in those moments, as I can honestly say that it was the first time in my life that I experienced genuine fear for myself. Please be safe out there, everyone, and always trust your instincts. Story 6. My marital roller coaster. You ruined my weekend, he yelled as I broke down after another blow-up. As my ex threatens self-harm, I wonder, am I the villain? Now married, I feel trapped fighting for my daughter while questioning if it's all my fault. I never thought I was perfect, but I believed I at least tried to be good. Now I am no longer certain. I am 25 years old and got married this year to my now husband, who is 27 years old. I just gave birth to his daughter 6 weeks ago. Our relationship has been rocky pretty much since the beginning, but I thought I could fix it. Now I am uncertain. I will attempt to keep things brief, but to understand the chaos that is my life, I must start a few years back. Every single relationship I have been in up until now has been a chaotic mess. The first man I dated was a compulsive liar, but being too young to trust my instincts, I wanted to believe him. I had just finished school, was depressed, and we met while playing video games online. He told me he loved me and wanted to move to Germany from the United States to live with me. He booked a flight, I found an apartment for us to stay in, paid for everything, and moved out of my father's place. My relationship with my father was already strained, and that decision was the final push. We lost all contact after that. To support us, I exhausted all the money I inherited after my mother died. He promised he would repay me. Why didn't I work? Honestly, I do not know. Why didn't he work? I am not sure either. After a few months, he decided it would be better if we moved to America where he had family and better job opportunities. So we packed all our belongings and booked a flight there. I met his family and we stayed at his parents' home until I had to return to Germany 3 months later. He said he wanted to marry me so that I could stay there with him and we would figure things out. Therefore, I left most of my belongings with him and took a flight back to Germany alone. Then he began to ignore me. He rebuilt his life there, making empty promises until he drained me emotionally, and then finally, when I could not take it any longer, he stopped communicating entirely. I never received anything back from him as he had promised, not even my belongings. All I had were some clothes and a suitcase. I moved back in with my father out of necessity, secured a job, and eventually got my own apartment once I saved enough money. Then the next boyfriend came along. We met on a dating application. He was also American and stationed a few hours away. I did numerous foolish things for him because I genuinely loved him despite everything. He informed me from the beginning that I was not his type and frequently became angry with himself for not being able to love me more. I still visited him every weekend, once again spending all my earnings from my job on a man who did not truly love me, hoping to make him love me in return. He knew he was leading me on and felt guilty about it, which gave me just enough hope to believe that maybe, one day he would love me too. I cooked for him, cleaned his apartment, fulfilled all his requests, and tried to be the ideal girlfriend. He had obsessive-compulsive disorder, a short temper, and a self-destructive personality with a hint of narcissism. It was akin to handling a live grenade. It exploded in my face several times as well. The good times were genuinely wonderful, but the bad times were simply terrible. He kicked me out a few times too. I kept apologizing for things that I knew were not my fault, trying to mend our relationship. I wanted to fix him. When we fought, it was always related to his obsessive-compulsive disorder. One minor incident would spark comments like, "You're making that face again, stop looking at me, just leave me alone, you ruined my weekend," all while trapped in a small room with nowhere else for me to go. Sometimes it escalated to him throwing things and destroying his own belongings. I was perpetually tense, striving to do everything correctly while awaiting his anger. It only exacerbated the situation, yet I could not relax. When his term ended, he wanted to stay in Germany, but he was still unsure about me. I told him that if things did not work out, I would assist him in settling down, so we prepared everything for him to move in with me. On the day of his move, I was working late and he was supposed to bring over the last of his belongings. Instead, I returned home to find an empty apartment. He did not answer my calls either. Only when he was back in America did he respond, apologizing and telling me he just needed time to sort himself out first. We continued talking daily while I sold his car for him, sent him the last of his forgotten belongings, and handled his paperwork. All the while, he was out drinking and trying to pick up girls at clubs, telling me all about it. In the summer, he invited me to visit him so we could see how he felt after having some time alone. I went, and not much had changed. The good times remained wonderful and the bad remained terrible. We continued to communicate after I returned, but I think that was my breaking point. However, it also seemed to mark a turning point for him, because after my vacation, I met someone at work with whom I began spending time. And this is where I still question how I should have handled things. My ex now seemed to want to reconcile, apologizing for how he treated me and claiming he could do better. I wanted to believe him but was unable to do so even though I tried. I spent countless hours crying, feeling completely broken. I told the man I met at work that I did not want to be more than friends for the time being. We went on walks, but it was clear he wanted more. After a few weeks, I asked him what he would say if I wanted more as well. I was still not ready, but he was overjoyed. The next day, I informed him that I was not yet prepared. My ex was still communicating with me, asking if we could at least be friends, believing he could eventually win me back. The man from work began giving me the cold shoulder when I tried to talk to him again. I understand that what I did was wrong. He was aware of my ex, and I attempted to explain that I needed closure first. At that point, he told me he had planned to move back to his home country anyway. To make matters worse, my ex now wanted to come to Germany so that I could tell him in person that I could not be with him any longer, believing I would not be able to say no. Now I genuinely felt trapped. I did not want him to leave, but I also did not want to rush anything. I asked him to stay and told him that I liked him, I just needed time. My ex began calling me frantically, threatening to harm himself or come to hurt me and everything in between. I felt absolutely terrible knowing I hurt both of them. I was reluctant to rush into a relationship I was not ready for, but I genuinely liked him. It has been over 2 years now, and he still resents me for how we got together. He believes I was cold and played games with his feelings. I have attempted to explain and apologize, but that resentment persists. Perhaps that is why he continues to create new reasons to dislike me. Most of these are either misunderstandings or simply never occurred. However, I cannot prove that. Have you ever tried to prove a negative? You cannot. Now I am lying here after yet another argument about something that never happened. He is now my husband, who very clearly despises me and blames me for all the misfortunes in his life. I realize I am not without fault, but I constantly question if it is all me. I do not believe that abusers are aware of their actions. In their minds, it likely all makes perfect sense. I do not think anyone would consider themselves a bad person. So perhaps in this case, I am that bad person and I deserve this miserable life. The one thing keeping me alive right now is my daughter. If anyone has read all of this, thank you. It felt good to express it.